Welcome to Beefmaster Banner. We're your hosts, Josh Morrison and Jared Strickland. What's going on, man?
We've just been doing a little bit of traveling.
I hear you're headed out to Red River.
That's right. We decided to come down and stay in Fort Worth a few days before we go over to the sale. So
I'll
this
make a
might
little,
get a little bit different on the road here.
yeah, make a little vacation of it. I think you're in the Airbnb in there with a couple different people, huh?
That's right. My buddy Weston's with me, and we and we're going to go to the sale and enjoy a few days of vacation time before it gets into hay season and all that too. So
Yeah, that's coming fast. But be sure to speak to Jared if you're at Red River this weekend. I know it's just coming out just a day before it, but be sure to speak to him. Let him know what you think of the podcast, and if there's subjects that you want to hear or opinions you have, please give them to him.
oh yeah, I definitely would enjoy that. Talking about the podcast is always fun, and definitely reach out to me if you're there, and we can discuss some topics for sure. And hopefully, maybe with a little help, we may coerce some more folks come on there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That'll be all right. But I mean, just you mentioned it. Hay season's in full swing. All around here, we're trying to get enough dry days to make some hay. We're just about behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same situation. It's been raining and cool, and the grass is kind of getting mature, and it's been a hard time getting in the field. But I think looking at the forecast, maybe next week it's going to shake up maybe and get something done.
Yeah, same way here. Hopefully, we'll get it. We'll all get it knocked out and can move on to bigger and better things. Breeding season's in full swing. It's just a busy time. It's a fun time, but a busy time.
That's right.
Before we get started tonight, I just want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Emmons Ranch Beefmasters for their support. I want to thank the Southeastern Beefmaster Breeders Association. Be sure to look out for their sale the weekend of August 26th. We'll all be there, and it's always a good time. Fellowship, friends, food, and some good cattle to see too. They're gonna we have a futurity every year there, so be sure to come by and see it. I'd like to thank Jones Beefmasters, Mr. Clark. They've got their sale coming up June the 24th, so it's coming pretty quick. Be sure to keep an eye out for it. Another good time, good weekend to go see good cattle. We'd like to thank C&M Ranches, Chris Chick. Appreciate your support. Be on the lookout for their stuff throughout the year. Always got good cattle. We'd like to thank Lissy's Beefmasters. They have 2 or 3 sales every year. So be sure they've got online genetic sales, live sales. So be sure to give them a look. We want to thank them. And last but not least, the Beefmaster Endowment Educational Fund, Beef. Thank you for what you're doing, not only for the breed, but for our podcast too. We really appreciate that. Tonight's a little bit of a different episode since things have kind of went crazy for Jared and I both here in the last week or two. We're kind of just about running a little bit late, but we're going to make it work out. We're just going to review a few different things and talk a little more. We had a lot of discussion off of our last episode with Robert Scott on body condition scoring. We're going to more so just put our opinions on it and just discuss it a little bit. It's a little bit different episode, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of, both of us just kind of talking about what we've talked about this year, and even though we're kind of doing it because of a time crunch, it's still, I think, hopefully, y'all will be able to take something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into it, I want to just say, just come back from the committee meetings last week. That was a great time. The first time I'd ever been. You get people from all over the nation, all different kinds of cattle. Sure, you may not agree on how you breed cattle, but I will tell you right now that those meetings were some of the most positive meetings that I've been in. Everybody had a good, everybody had good attitude, good spirit of well, let's work together and let's make this breed better for everyone. And it was good to see. So if you don't ever get to go, or if you've never gone before, be sure to try to go to it, because you can sit in any meetings you want. You can even sit in the board of directors meetings. Very nice facility down at College Station. The hotel, the facilities were really nice. It was a really good time.
Well, that's good to hear. I didn't get to make it and ended up getting sick right about the time we was going to go. I was planning on going and didn't get to make it, but I'm heard a lot of good things from the meeting. And like Josh said, I definitely recommend you going. That way you get to see the inner workings of the breed and voice your opinion and encourage you to, if you're interested, to be on a committee, because that's how things get done. So definitely volunteer to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can, and you said voice your opinion. It's pretty cool because everybody has a voice in this breed. Even if you're not currently on a committee, you could go in those committee meetings and they open it up to the floor. Jared and I on breed improvement together. And, in that meeting, we addressed the floor and said, does anybody have any concerns or does anybody have any ideas? And so you've always got a voice. Don't ever think you don't in this breed. I don't know if all breeds are this way, but I'm sure glad ours is. But moving kind of to more into the episode, Jared, we've had probably 10 episodes so far this year, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 11.
We're getting there at least. Close to
Yeah,
it.
there you go. There you go. So I thought would be pretty cool to take a minute and say, what is one point that has stuck with us um from the episode so far? And mine would be that from talking with David Holloway at the very beginning of this year, in January, he said the cattle markets are looking very positive for the year, and I don't think there's any slowing them down.
I agree with that. That's kind of the point. We talked about coming up with a point. And that's kind of one of them I had in my mind too. Uh, and that, I guess that what sticks with me is in this business, your pocketbook pretty much dictates what you do, whether you expand your herd, reduce your herd, make investments on either your farm or lease or make more genetic decisions as far as buying things or to get better genetics. Obviously, as purebred breeders ourselves, we're always hoping to sell purebred animals to other purebred breeders to improve their genetics. I guess would be one way of looking at that. And with the commercial market being what it is, finally moving forward, even though inputs have been high for a couple of years, I mean, it's always good to see some optimistic in the market, like you're talking about, moving up and things like that. Because in the cattle business, hope is what keeps us going. Because a lot of times you have these cycles, you have 4 or 5 down years and then maybe 1 or 2 up years, and you got to have the hope that things are going to turn around and get better, because sometimes it's tough to swallow. But the more money that's flowing into the commercial market, especially the commercial breeders' hands, they're more willing to upgrade their genetics, especially on bulls, which affects our sales and affects our operations, obviously, as purebred breeders. So I agree with you. Having Dave Holloway talk about potentially the market moving up and staying up is definitely something that stuck with me too, because it gives us hope that, hey, things are looking up.
There's brighter days around the corner, and I mean they're here. Really, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen cattle at $2 a pound. It feels like it may have just been a few years ago, but it feels like it's been forever, and it's
been a decade just about it. What I remember, maybe 2015 since we've seen that. And also, I mean, last month in April, we hit a record high ever on fat cattle trade. So, I mean, that's like I said, you can't get no higher right now than a record. So obviously that means that's the highest point in history. So the market is good. There's no doubt about it.
And you made mention of the commercial market, and I think it's important especially for people that may not even think about it or may not know. The commercial market directly affects the purebred market, whether you would know that or not. Because I mean, if the commercial cattle aren't selling, they're not going to go try, like you said, to upgrade the herd. So that kind of bottles us, gives us, I guess, more so bottlenecks in trying to improve people's, herds. So when the cattle market's down, it hurts us. So it's great to see the optimism from your small, very small breeders all the way to the large commercial guys, out in the Midwest. And, it's just nice to see some optimism.
Oh yeah. You bring a good point. I mean, yeah, we're directly tied to the commercial market, whether people like it or not. That's just the way it is. And like I said, the better they're doing, the better we're probably going to do too.
Yeah, I agree. So what was one point you took away so far this year?
Well, I hate to be an extension agent on it, but the point I wanted to talk about is going back a couple episodes about hay quality. And the reason that is, in my opinion, I get to see successful operators and some that are not so successful that need help. And with what I do with my job every day, and I think it's really important. I mean, I know we're talking about purebred cattle here on this a lot, and genetics is important. Everybody loves to go put two genetics together and see what you get. I mean, that's why I'm drawn to this business. I mean, that's the game of it, is to see what you can make and how good they can be, and do that. But the thing about it is, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more later because we wanted to bring it up about body condition scoring and things like that. But to be successful in the cattle business, you have to be able to take care of them. They have to be able to grow. They have to be able to breed. And also, if you're going to sell them to somebody for any type of money, they have to be in pretty good shape, right? We all go to these sales. You go to the sales, the ones that come in. And I know sometimes you can't help it if it's been drought, things like that. That's not what I'm getting at. But you'll see the thinner cows or cattle, heifers, but whatever you want to call it, they tend to be at the lower end of the sale as far as price wise. So in the extension world, I always tell folks, to cattle producers, the most efficient you can be is when you're having, if you're not having to feed, as long as you got grass graze, that's the most efficient you can be. But your next best way to be efficient is to put up high quality feed stuff at the most efficient cost that you can. So that's why I think your hay quality, getting in there, getting the timing right, and then I guess it's on my mind because it's this time of year, because I see a lot of grass standing out there that's getting over mature, and you already know that you're just like ourselves. I got some standing out there right now that needs to be cut, a week ago, sometimes you can't help that, but you need to plan for it. I already know my hay may not be as good, so I need to go ahead and be thinking about maybe getting some supplementation, things like that. But I guess my thing is for folks to put that in your mind, because, and again, another thing while we're talking about commercial market, your pocketbook is important. Well, being efficient in the hay field or having winter feed stuff as efficient as can affects your pocketbook as well. And it also affects the quality. Like if you've got a fall breeding herd, cabin herd or whatever, hay quality is going to come down to whether you get them bred or not. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, and I learned that from personal experience up in Tennessee. A fall cabin herd, I mean, you got to have a good nutrition program, or you're not going to do very good.
No, and I think it's, I want to note too that, we talk about this stuff, but just realize winter's hard on everybody, right? I mean, it's not just the new guy. It's not just the guy that's got, he might be the only one running 100 cows. I mean, winter's hard on everybody and everything. And being in the Southeast in North Carolina, we don't generally have harsh winters, but they're cold enough to where, I mean, it makes it tough. And if you don't have, like you said, if you don't have good forage, you'll know it quickly, but you'll back yourself in the corner even quicker.
Yeah, and I mean, you take like I see it all the time, like we look at hay samples and things like that, and our state average is below the hay that's put up on the samples that go to the lab, which is very unique. We get to look at all of them and kind of see, man, the average is below. That's the average across the state is below what will actually maintain an animal. I mean, with a calf or a cow with a calf. So, I mean, it shows you there's a lot of hay getting put up that's not good enough. So, like I said,
and in my opinion,
it's something to think about. I mean,
in my opinion, you tell me if you disagree or not, but it's one thing to buy hay from somebody and it not be the greatest quality, because you can always move to another person that's got better quality hay. It's another thing. I feel sure, I know in the Southeast, it is dang near impossible to find land to farm, for hay or anything, even our farm, even your row crop guys, it's hard to find land anymore because you've got apartments, you've got buildings, you've got cities just expanding like crazy. It's harder to me, it would be harder to make your own hay and know you have a low quality forage and fix that versus someone that's buying hay, because the person to me that's buying hay can go elsewhere. Like I said a second ago, they can go elsewhere and find maybe a better quality hay.
I mean, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. I've always told folks that, when you run the actual numbers, you're more probably cost effective if you've got like 50 cows or less, maybe even these days 100 or less, to buy your own hay, to buy hay because of the equipment costs, etc. But the peace of mind knowing that, like you're talking about, if you make your own hay, at least you kind of can help control the quality that you make. So I see that as an advantage to a smaller producer to go ahead and make their own hay. But I mean, as far as cost effectiveness, I usually tell folks if you're 50 cows or less, a lot of times it's going to be cheaper to buy hay. But then again, what's going to be available?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of at somebody else's mercy if you have a dry year.
Yeah, that's true. Like this last year, that's fresh on everybody's mind. How hard it was to buy hay, really all across the United States. How high it was. I mean, there was reasons for it to be high other than just dry, but obviously the low yield really enhanced that. So, and again, that's kind of a tough predicament to be in. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's hard to say one way or the other. Which way is the best way to go as far as whether you make your own hay or buy it. But it just depends on each situation. Is very unique.
Yeah. And the other thing is, kind of one of the last points I have on this is, you talking about, we're talking about input costs, how high they are, being in equipment sales myself, I have watched these, prices on stuff just skyrocket astronomically, just like everything else. And I mean, if you've only got 10 acres that you could probably mow, I would say don't but go buy a bunch of hay equipment. I would either pay somebody to cut that field, or I would just probably give the field up and go buy some hay.
Yeah. So it's everybody's, like Josh said, your situation is unique and you have to kind of weigh your options.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of moving forward, I guess technically moving backward to the last episode, we had it with Robert Scott, and we've had a ton of discussions on Facebook, which I love. I love to see it. I know Jared loves to see it, especially, when we get, you get different people's opinions and not everybody's going to agree. And, I just love seeing the differences in opinions. The biggest difference in opinion that I seen was on body condition scoring. Not necessarily disagreeing on what that is, but maybe how to get there.
Yeah. And I think that subject, Matt, the subject in itself of body condition scoring, they've put me in classes before to learn it and things like that and try to teach it. And the best way I can describe it is it's not like a textbook, like, damn, this is a set of numbers that you use because there's some bias in that. Or I don't even know if that's the right word. I guess it's such an.
It can be.
Yeah, it's an opinion. Yeah, obviously there can be some bias there, but it's more of a. I've just seen so many different people talk different things about what a 5 is versus a 7 or a 9, whatever, the things to look at, which are some general rules you follow, but then at the same time, it's still an opinion.
Yes.
Way. So when I say, Josh, I think your cow should be a 6, well, you might want to say what my 6 is versus when you say, well, no, I think your cows need to be in a 5 or maybe a 7 or et cetera. Now, like I said, there's general rules to that, but it's still kind of in the eye of the beholder. So I think folks out there need to maybe I hope they understand that when we're talking about body condition scoring, that make sure that, I guess if you're judging a set of cattle, make sure you're using the same set of parameters, I guess.
Right.
Which would be the same person doing the scoring across the whole board.
Well, I think you made a good comment the other day that a lot of people tend to underjudge cattle, I guess would be the word I'm looking for, more so than over.
Yeah, I could see that. Because, and I've seen it go both ways too, but I typically see more people think, that one's a 4 or something like that when she's probably closer to a 5 or something.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the differences in the numbers if you're if I'm saying she's a 5 and Jared's saying she's a 6. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I put down here on our notes, why should it be important to us? Well, in my opinion, the main, very number one reason that it is important is for them to breed back.
I agree with that. Because you always say, and we talked about it in the last episode, and we've talked about it even in the nutrition episode, and even all the different episodes we've talked about, it kind of brings it up. But that body condition score is your guide to see where you're at, and also let you know if your nutrition is working. Obviously, if you're going down in scoring, your nutrition is not keeping up with the demand that the cow needs. If you're going up, then you're at least giving access because they're gaining. If they're staying the same, then you're kind of right at the level playing, because it goes back to what we was talking about with efficiency. Do you necessarily need a cow to gain extra body condition score? Because it's costing you. It was put to me one time, is it worth the money to take them from a 6 to a 7 when they don't need to be? Because
Right.
if they're gaining weight, then they're having access, I guess, especially if you're supplementing. Now, if they're on grass and they're gaining body condition score, there ain't nothing you do about that. That just means things are going good. I'm just saying, if you're going from a 6 to a 7 and you're feeding them, not necessarily say that that's exactly what you have to do, especially on a cow. That's one thing when you're getting a heifer ready for a sale, or getting a heifer, or growing out replacement heifers, bulls, etc., because you want to take them up to a level that they're fixing to go into a changing environment. And Robert made a point to that in the last episode. But if you're running a herd of cows, there's no sense in, if you're at a body score of 5 or 6, there's no sense in supplementing those cows if you're staying at that plane, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, yeah, and you made a good point a little bit ago, right before we started this episode, that talking about a bred cow or bred heifer may look a lot bigger than she really is.
Yeah, well, that's funny. We was talking about that too, because you go out there and body condition score a heifer the day before she calves, you think, dang, she's a 5, she may be a 6. She looks pretty good. They fooled me several times. And then you go out there the next day and she's just had a calf and plumb gutted and bad, and you're waiting for her to get filled back up, and you're like, dang, she may be a 4.5, or something.
Yeah, yeah. And then supplementing really comes into play at that point, especially if she's a heifer.
So you're thinking, well, I thought I was ahead of the 8 ball, but now I may be behind. So I look at that as they can fool you, especially when they're bred and have that belly blowed out, kind of, because what it'll do is it'll hide those ribs.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important for people to know, especially the newer, we try to focus some on the newer folks too, is if you're not used to seeing that, it's going to take you a few times to learn how to see it, because they'll still fool us every now and then. I guarantee you, we could have anybody on here, the most experienced person with cattle, and I guarantee you they still get fooled every now and then.
So to me, my best advice to give you on the body condition score is, go to a university, either a website, maybe go to a class, in person, or something like that, and get, I've been to some where they actually have the cattle there. Everybody kind of does a practice round of doing their score, and then obviously the educator will say, well, this is what I think, and then have a discussion about it. And that way you kind of learn different things to look at. I guess if I'm going to kind of give some advice over a podcast, my advice would be to look at where fat deposits are. if you're getting fat deposits, a lot of times that's going to be easier to see on something like you're talking about, like a bred heifer. She may be full and got that extension and tightness to her, that kind of hides some of the ribs. But if you don't have any fat across the top of the backbone or around the tail head or in the brisket, that she's running pretty lean. So that's something to look at.
Well, and have people come look. I mean, like we've talked about before in this breed, anybody, especially somebody close or, we've got a sale over this way in July. Y'all said y'all are coming down, and it's always good to have someone else look at your cattle. We preach that a lot, but it truly is always really good to have that. And it's good to go see other people's cattle, because then you can get a comparison. I'm pretty sure Steve Emmons was one of the ones that said it the most when we did his episode, was get out and see people, because that's the only way that you're going to know where your cattle herd is.
I agree with that. And that actually would probably be what we could call a third point, what you're talking about with Steve's episode. But yeah, get out and see other people's cattle, but definitely get other people to come see your cattle if you can. I always call it a barn blindness. You see yours every day and you think that they're a certain, maybe even a standard, or we're talking about body conditions. So get somebody out to look at them and say, what do you think these are scoring? Get another opinion. Get you. I don't know if I'd say go get your local feed guy out there, because he might say, well, you need to get him some more feed.
Yeah.
But everybody's got an extension agent around or something, or a specialist or just some buddies that are in the cattle business to come look and talk it over. And if you're new to the business, that's for sure. That's going to be one of the first things you need to do to evaluate your herd is have other people lay eyes on them and get some opinions.
And they don't have to be a purebred breeder. I think it's important to note there's some commercial guys that have been around for, what seems like decades, and they're probably more experienced than anybody else.
And that's actually probably the point we haven't talked about a whole lot on here anyway. Is get them commercial guys, that get them out there and look at your cattle and get their opinions and let them tell you what may be working or not working. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones that's going to be buying these bulls.
Yeah. If they don't like them, then
if they don't like them,
in trouble.
I'm saying I wouldn't say just one person, but if you have people repeatedly coming by that are commercial buyers telling you, no, this ain't gonna work. I don't know.
It tells you it's time to change something.
Well, maybe something to change, or at least maybe change where you're marketing your cattle. I don't know. At least you get that opinion,
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's important because at the end of the day, like we always say, that's our end market right there. Your place in market, but a commercial guy for us is truly our end market.
Yeah. And they know cattle. That's the thing. Commercial folks know cattle because that's how they make a living, or at least trying to make a living.
Yes. So yeah. And they don't, they're going to cull just like we do. It just may be a little different process. But yeah, you're right. It's just, that they probably know cattle better than a lot of purebred guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that affects goes back to the pocketbook.
That's it. But we'd love to hear everyone's opinions on body condition scoring and what we talked about on this episode. It's a little more of just a conversation versus an interview. We're going to try to mix some more of these in. It's a little different for us, but we're going to try it and just see what happens. Y'all just have to let us know how you like it. But always tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, I guess it gives our opinion in there. Whether that may be good or bad, I don't know.
People might not like it, but that's okay. It'll put more conversation in here, and we can get them on here to talk about it.
That's right. If you hear the episode and don't agree with something or want to discuss something, not necessarily disagree, but let us know. That way we can discuss it on here and do more of that and have more discussion time about different things, because we always like to interview folks, but at the same time, sometimes that's not always an option every episode. So
no, it's fun, and just like this, it's fun just to talk and just have a conversation sometimes. So we're completely out of time tonight, but Jared, it's been fun, and we'll do some more of these. And y'all have fun. Be careful coming home, and y'all enjoy your night.
All right. Yeah, I'm about ready for bed. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day and a long night. Y'all have a good night. See you on the next episode.
All right. See.
Well, we want to thank everybody for listening to the Beefmaster Banner podcast. Please know that we are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and we are on YouTube. Just search Beefmaster Banner. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We love hearing from you. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.